behave in the most hostile way possible. Perceive in the most hostile way I've ever seen a virtual stranger behave to me in my entire life. And to give me every reason why I've been feeling anxious and dreadful coming into the store. And so not only has it been happening over time, now the person that you go to help, and you're doing nothing, just being patiently taking it and using your words to say, I don't really like what's happening. And this person goes ahead and just emulates it and magnifies it in public around people to say, hey, fuck you. And he's felt that way for some weeks as he started to use your name and say hello to you every day. Hi, Landon. Hi, Landon. Hi, Landon. And you're like, something's wrong, but they're not telling you. And whatever concerns people have, they don't just think that you need to know what those concerns are. They assume that you're not that concerned. That you wouldn't be concerned about all of a sudden the fact that they don't want you to shop there anymore. Right? And they've told themselves that. Right? They've eliminated you from their consideration. Because they live a world where that is a very built-in capacity and a compulsion to eliminate people as they have been eliminated. And to share that feeling with you, to force you to feel it. Something they don't want to feel, which is humiliated and eliminated. Well, it's a very manipulative. And that's what they're telling you. We have it in us as a group, if not individually, to be able to form like a machine for the delivery of public sexual humiliation. And most of us will walk away unscathed. And if need be, we've got one or two people we can take the blame as it spreads around. Because, obviously you're not going to be able to take all of it. And as you, with your anger, break through the magical thinking, indeed, that's what takes place. So they fire a single mother. That's the first thing they do. Who did the least wrong. Right? And so they're working themselves basically up a kind of invisible ladder, starting at, the most innocent person, the list, and they're going for the most innocent people. They think they're protecting the most innocent people, but they're actually protecting the least innocent people, those who have done the most damage, those who have committed certain things to their behavior in the most explicit possible way. They keep those people employed, right? But the people who've done the least, except maybe even passively, right? They get the biggest end of the stick, right? And eventually the other employees get disempowers because she can't, they don't really accept her anymore, other staff members. And the manager stays. They lose a few people, right? They don't work there anymore, but probably never would again. Because who wants to be around that, And the manager goes on content with himself in his life because, he didn't do anything wrong. Even though he's making everyone pay for wrongs that are lesser than what he did. It's absolutely indistinguishable. He heard something bad and he acted on it without proper consideration for the feelings and safety of others. He did more than anybody else wrong because he was given more of a prerogative by the owner to do so than anyone else. And somehow they consider this leadership. That's how a cult runs, right? Certain cult members are protected from scapegoating because they're integral. They're being scapegoated, but it's only because they're so useful. And they're kept at a certain servile level. Right? If he works 80 hours a week in that store, he's never going to make anywhere near the money that his boss does. Right? He's an indentured slave. He can feel certain things. He's a sadist. Right? If necessary, he knows territory and he knows pecking orders. And if you're a customer, you're at the bottom, if need be, based on various dynamics. So you're interrupting a very sick environment. Yes, needless to say, I wouldn't shop there again. But anyway, and funny enough, I was already thinking like, oh, I'm dependent on health food stores the rest of my life. I really don't like them. You know, I don't like meat there. I don't like the policies. I don't like the salespeople, the representatives are there saying, "Oh look, I've got this graph that says that you should buy ectoplasm protein plus plus, and your dick will last longer or something." And it's just, and they've got the research to prove it. They've always got the research. They've always got usually some white middle class female to tell you, to give you a free sample of their ooey gooey bluey super juice, and how it's the next greatest thing, keeping everything just absolutely $19,000 a bottle. You know, and people who figured it out that it's a racket, but you know, they work through volume. Most people will not believe. Most people have trouble telling small lies. They can't believe the capacity, not just for the state, but for the average salesperson to tell humongous lies, because they've believed it. Believing it is part of their job. Right? And now you extend this to other services like the police, and what they digest, and what they can do that you wouldn't believe, and the lies they can tell, when even a small ITU is a big deal. And you think, these are people who are supposed to tell our children what's right and wrong, but they're the most criminal people because of what they believe and how far they're allowed to dictate their behavior based upon all kinds of very profitable forms of misjudgment, culture, and bias. Right? There's a reason why police officers teach classes on law. No one gets a police officer for an attorney. Right? Right? And so these people in this cult often say, "Are you a lawyer?" Aren't lawyers themselves? Are you? Presumably they have some ranking in the legal profession. A police officer is not a legal profession. It's not part of the legal profession. It's a part of the criminal justice system. It's different. Right? The criminal justice system has a legal system, and people in the legal profession. Police officers and sheriffs are not in the legal profession. They're in the policing profession. But they behave and talk as though they're part of the legal profession. They think they're part of the legal system. They're not. They're a dirty cleanup crew and or marauding gang of thieves who practice regressive taxation and are given a sort of plausible immunity or qualified immunity or unqualified immunity from the inevitable indiscretions and lapses that are bound to be meted out to the unwitting public. Like the woman who complained in a court in front of a female judge and a sheriff that another sheriff had asked her to lift up her top and had tried to touch her boobs without it. And he immediately arrested her and started terrifying her in front of the judge, who was playing with the woman's daughter and saying how the daughter would have to go to protective custody. And they arrested her. And luckily she had a fun pick this child up. But these fucking people didn't know that. And the judge, the female, really turns her back and decides not to watch. The judge was eventually fired 2 years later. Both the sheriffs were fired after a legal battle, and she won $200,000. But do you think it's really worth it? What kind of people are these? Right? Because you set up a system where their word, and anyone's word, is worth more than someone else's word. That's a very dangerous thing. It's a very dangerous thing when you give more weight to someone's word than someone else's. And there's no really good reason to do that. And the shock that you sustain, not just the vileness that these people latch onto. And this manager in the store latched onto me years ago. He's a schizophrenic. He stalked me around the store now and then. And during this period, I met other females related to the store who were also schizophrenics. And they just come under the power of other aspects of themselves. They come under other aspects of themselves, compulsions, personality complexes, demons, and things. They can be just a part of them they were when they were 20. a certain vigor for life that now is rising up and expressing itself through abnormal behavior, lowered inhibitions. Right? And so I caught him kind of just lurking around sometimes in the store. And I did some ceremony and said, oh, fuck this, because you have to acknowledge it. You acknowledge the demon and say, and then it stops. He's like, yeah, I get that there's something stalking me. Stop, you know? And it usually will stop. Right? But then this person has demonstrated this capacity. And sure enough, the last 2 weeks I was there, he was just out now stalking me. He had no good intention towards me. My safety from the owner, everyone I'd known for 12 years, had effectively been eliminated without any comments. And the reason, which you won't quite believe, because when I looked upset one day and I asked her how she was doing, that's why. And she took offense at it. That's why I was asked to leave. That's why all my safety from a store of 12 years, because it's a health food store. That's how much placing that store was worth to them. And to an owner who would like to use my name, no one else's name. Hi Bob or hi Susie. Hi Landon, hi Landon, hi Landon. I don't know how many hundreds of times I heard it walk by. Hi Landon, hi Landon. And it wasn't respect, it was fear. You know, they were afraid of me. You know, and that's why. Too much fear. And, that's that. So, and that fear probably, that's why this guy was stalking me, out of fear. And we could talk. Yeah, one of the ladies in the deli was quite abrasive, not very customer friendly. And I would stand there patiently waiting for service. She'd often turn her back. She would never say hello. She had told customers, me and others, that she really preferred not to see us. It went that far, even though she did it in a kind of polite way. And always had, there's too much work, doesn't probably even need to work there, owns her own property. And when I would stand there sometimes, he would come and stand out, do something around the neighboring deli case or meat case. And you could just tell he's just keeping an eye on things. And it's clear that he doesn't think anything about how she is not delivering stellar customer service. He's just irritated about you. He sees you as the irritation. Because you're bringing something into focus. You're observing it. You're standing there and you're holding a space for this behavior to be evident. She's evidently antisocial. And you're just waiting. And what's happening is he's transferring her antisocial behavior onto me. You're antisocial. It's you. And he's scapegoating me because he can't do his, he's afraid of her. Right? And I've seen it with women too. Right? They can't handle anything that makes it look like you're anything more than a completely impotent, neutral, massive, customer-oriented goo. And it's like, no, she behaves this way. Like, I'm being very patient. I'm not saying anything. I'm just standing here patiently until she's ready to serve me. I don't know what to say. I say hi, it doesn't matter. I don't say hi. Eventually she turns around and goes, what can I get you? Or what do you want, quite often. Never says hello. And it's a place that you've been shopping at. If you've ever gone to a deli in any major city, they don't have to be super friendly, like, hey, how's it going? What can I get you? You know, there's a sort of professional kind of lilt to the voice. You know, they don't resent you. They don't have to be like, they don't have to lick your balls, but they don't have to, you know, show basically antisocial behavior toward you, like they really rather not see you. And I kept thinking, prices for all this food, but you've hired someone who doesn't want people to buy it. They'd rather they just go to a vending machine. It's quite something. And so to see stocky behavior and eventually come out and just, you know, his position, he's of the owners. Disciples like that, first order disciples, they won't get rid. In fact, they get closer to the guru. Right? You know, there's people that just don't belong there. Because a health food store isn't just a store.
It's a cult. It's a pretty day. It's a pretty day. Certainly a pretty day.
It's a lovely day.
Yeah.
Tiny sprinkle of rain, that's all right.
It's nice to be able to be outside for a few minutes and not freeze yourself. You know?
Isn't it awesome? Yeah, it's good.
It's a nice one. He looks like a guy. He's a strong man. There's a guy that looks like him called Richard. He's a weak man. He's a weak man, and I've seen he's a bit of a predator. Weak people are predators. So like that guy thinks for himself. He was a little nervous talking to me, but that's fine. It's perfectly for humans to be nervous around each other. Like I've never thought that that was a problem. The thing is that it's not a problem. It's not that you shouldn't be nervous. Is that even if you're nervous about meeting someone, it shouldn't be a problem for them. If they're nervous about you, it shouldn't be a problem for you. Strangers, you're different. You're from a different family. What fucked up shit went on in your family? And what did you do about it that's a threat to me, potentially? Right? That's what every one of us thinks when we meet a stranger at a subconscious level. You know, and some people, they have a neck like, hey, how's it going? Woo, woo. They got friends like, woo, woo. How you doing, man? Hey, good, have a good day. Nothing ever touches that, you know, in a way. And they just seem to have endless resources of super, ooper, duper positive energy. Now, you know, that's good in its own right. Maybe you think I'm cynical, but I'm not sure if that's all going to blow my hair back there. But I prefer the sort of somber, bitter who have seen a few things in the world, still like that sort of childhood romantic and celestial order of human, but don't like to pursue any fucking thing just because it's magical, but rather you got a practical value of your pursuits. Even if other people think they're just, you know, the fact that you sense of defensiveness about how practical, like, oh, I've got this religion, you know, I worship Satan on the earth, and you know, I learned to stop telling people things about my religion when I was young because, you know, from psychologists to everyone else, they would just like try to get rid of it, like it was a problem. Nobody ever wants an intelligent, natural person to pursue their own interests, particularly religiously. Mm. And you know, and it's like okay, and you, if you tell me, if I tell you my religion, it's like, well, what's practical? Like, I don't know. I mean, I know what I don't need today. I'll tell you later. I can get through the next week. Um, because I would say on the first hand, like, keeping evil away. People, and it keeps me vividly sensible and alert when it comes time to make decisions like where am I going to walk today? Because wherever I go, kind of like my job, I do it every day. There are places sometimes, like this one guy at the Chevron station doesn't really like me anymore, or he thinks I don't like him. You know, a little bit of an awkward exchange happened one day, and initiated by him, but that's okay. Like it's up to both of us to not let it be awkward. But I can tell like something shifted in his mind, and he's a shop man, and he's probably got a little bit of a Napoleon thing. He has very expensive cars. He doesn't need to be working at a gas station, and it's probably his religion of karma yoga. So he sees it as his point to not just sell people things, but kind of, you know, be something to somebody. You don't really need someone to be to you. In any case, and walking out here today, making big decisions in my life, processing shock from things that other people might not find so shocking. Someone's help, someone to take all my fears away. But like, you know, hey, you know, like I don't feel safe getting on a bus, and here's why. That doesn't mean, you know, the world should change, but I mean, at the very least, you would think, you know, you'd hope against all evidence, that the bus system would be able to take that in and just adjust. This is definitely not what we want to see. There's an eagle going right over. Ay, ay, ay. Two eagles going right over. It's completion. Tidal waters are lower. And, yeah, so it was interesting to see in this one cult, this food store, that the people did the least from the single mother to me, even though the single mother did pass some sort of vicious rumors. And I know that the person who was starting them she's a sociopath, has a way of being very convincing, convinces people that she's a fearful, absolute person, and then introduces some vile thing that some prospective man has done to her, everything they wanted. and, and so maintains this prerogative to slander them. And you know, it's convincing. This woman was convinced, and then she convinced another woman who then started to act out in the store. I immediately said to her, look, we can either talk this out right now, I'm going to have to talk to your manager, and I did immediately, because it's just adamantly unacceptable way to behave, regardless of the condition of your mind and your fears and so forth. It's not professional. There are better ways. Hostility is hostility because there are better ways to deal with it. But all given the superlative nature of this woman's hysterical and, if I may say, somewhat state of mind at this point, who becomes tremendously fearful, limits eye contact. Principally, this woman has told them that I probably raped her or something. And on top of that, this woman is sort of a candle burning for me as well, just, even though I'm just buying food there. And I knew that and a few other things the last time I saw her, and then it's just crash. And they crash even more when they've already tried to attach their chakras to you. So yes, it's awful that someone's telling them this, but different people are going to respond differently based upon their attachments they've made to me. And then who gets even worse about it, who has more power. And then once, you know, I'm able to say, which takes everything, including my reputation and my ability to shop there, to do. You can imagine what it took to set him straight in public, because it's the only place he wanted to deal with me. He did not want to talk to me in private. And part of his sort of vengeful schizoid state. He actually took it to the maximal illegal sort of degree of slander and defamation, and had adequate verbal rebuttal from me to understand that I did not confess to such things. I had an absolutely natural disdain for having such things suggested about me, having shopped there quite frequently without any issues whatsoever for 12 years, despite having a number of young female staff. And that was another factor, because a manager like this, who's predatory, no doubt took extreme issue to the fact that a number of the young ladies were quite fond of me, and one of whom I think was pretty much on the way to being in love with me, whom I think he actually had some fairly sick designs upon. And I'm quite thankful to say that upon my release from the store, I think she departed quite quickly after that. And that itself was somewhat comforting. So territorial people that are schizophrenic in this way do have perversions. They don't have a reasonable set of boundaries. But he took it to the nth degree. And yet, when it came out, the first thing he did is fire the single mother, who had done nothing more than gossip with another person in the store. It's that person who took it to the next level of being verbally abusive to a customer, and it's him that took it to the next level of being even more verbally abusive. and denying them a voice and denying them any of the normal considerations that you should give for a conflict to be worked out with everyone's safety in mind. No one had to be fired, and nothing needed to happen. But that wasn't possible with this type of person. And of course, there's the ownership who are also condoning this behavior. So you get a full kind of biopsy of the kind of people you're dealing with. And you might say, well, it's an awful rumor to hear about someone. On the other hand, you've known this person who's been working here for 3 months, and you've known me for 12 years. If I was going to insult a woman in your store, wouldn't I put a number of younger, prettier girls to fuck with? Wouldn't somebody have seen some kind of aggression from me, some kind of evidence of imbalance in all those years, where I was often considered their favorite customer, particularly young women and young men that had worked there, had attested to, and it's what can I say? I think the best way to put it in the English language is it makes my heart sick. Here. Maybe we should do that. And the manager actually lied to me. He'd lowered all of his inhibitions, lied to me in front of witness while talking to me. He just would say anything. And then when I dismissed him as, that this is of no use to me, I don't want to deal with you anymore, he went about finishing shopping and paying them money for stuff and apologizing to the young man for the scene that's just unfolded before him. Right? Actually apologizing. No one apologized to me. He's still babbling behind me. He won't shut up. He's not done yet. And yet has not asked me anything, has not, I've given everything he needed. He's not asking me questions. He's not having any kind of conversation with me. And if it hadn't gone on for 2 weeks and he had approached me in private or something, I think it would have been a lot different story. But of course they picked them. I went up to him, and his arm was shaking. His left arm was visibly shaking. He was afraid of me. I made eye contact with the owner one day. The owner, who's known me longer than the manager, could have said, "Hey, Lennon, can we talk?" I'd even made a number of complaints on their website. Hey, things are not feeling pretty good. Things are looking a little hinky. Do you guys want to talk to me? Hello. Hi. Hey there. Hey. Lightner. Peaceful. And people's logic often tends to get pretty point. I think, while questions may be vague, like, why is this happening to Landon? Why did we do this to him of all people? And at the same time, it could be, well, of course it would happen to him because, he's strange. It's not about us. He's got issues. Like the scapegoat, right? Anything they've said doesn't matter. Anything they are doesn't matter. I had, after I told the guy I was going to leave several times over. And when I eventually left, I'm walking out the door, and he's like, and don't come back. Despite never asking me to leave, and never taking, and yet admitting that my safety in the store has been seriously suspect for 2 weeks. How that is good for anybody, I don't know. So this man who's been stalking me off and on for months, if not the first time I met him, and you'll meet people like that man I saw in the store today who just take an immediate dislike to you. And it's a somewhat what I call a demonic store. When the native man is there, oops, Gunther, that's a good name for a dog. Oops. Okay.